Good morning! Welcome to Sunday Morning Announcements with the Jocelyn Gray avatar. If you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, please subscribe to get notifications when we have new videos. If you're with us on Zoom, say hi in the chat. We'd love to say hello back. If you're with us in person, hello everybody here! And if this is your first visit, please sign the guest book either in the lobby or online at oakcliffuu.org/guest. A reminder! Every Sunday morning at 9:30, one of our board members is available to answer your questions about the church. We hope you take advantage of this opportunity, either in person or online via Zoom. Today, September 1st, we'll have a special Labor Day message in word and song from labor activist Gene Lantz. We hope you can stick around after the service today for Talkback, where we gather in a circle and discuss the service and related topics. For those online, see the Zoom chat at the end of the service for the meeting information. Coming up after the service today, the combined worship ministry/coordinating council meeting will be held at 1 p.m. in person in Charity North and online at tinyurl.com/uucoc-cc-first, and it's open to all. And then the next day...
Game day!
Game day!
Game day!
Game day!
Game day!
Game day!
Let's play on Labor Day.
When?
Labor Day, September 2nd.
What time?
2 p.m.
Where?
Hope Chapel.
What kind of games?
Board games, card games, dominoes, charades, a bit of everything.
Wow, can I bring anything?
Yes, bring a snack to share. Let's have an afternoon of fun and good-hearted competition.
Game day!
Game day!
Thank you, Eric and Rita. The following day is our quarterly First Tuesday Film Festival. Please join us on Tuesday, September 3rd for a free film screening in celebration of 6 trailblazing women of color and in acknowledgement of the barriers they faced. How It Feels to Be Free explores how these entertainers reshaped the way black women were represented on stage and on screen. Abby Lincoln, the Black Marilyn Monroe, turned protest singer and activist. Nina Simone, the revolutionary musical prodigy. Pam Grier, the first female action hero. Diahann Carroll, the first black woman to both win an Tony Award and star in her own TV series in a role other than a maid. Lena Horne, the first black woman signed to a major studio. And actress Cicely Tyson, who used her art as a form of protest. We hope you can stay for the discussion following the film, as we recognize the barriers these women faced will only be fully shattered when we all put our shoulders to the wheel. The First Tuesday Film Festival is co-sponsored by the Dallas Peace and Justice Center. And upcoming this week, the Social Justice Ministry Reading Group's new selection is Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid by Jimmy Carter. The group meets online Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Questions? Email Mavis at sjm@oakcliffuu.org. Just a few more things. We need Sunday morning greeters. If you would like to join this important part of our ministry, please let Rita know. Hey, coffee drinkers and those who understand us. Generous contributions to the coffee donation jar offset the cost of coffee and keep it flowing. Thanks for your help. Remember, all this and more is in your eBlast newsletter. Not receiving the eBlast? Just sign up at oakcliffuu.org/enews. It's that easy. Have you signed up but still aren't getting the eBlast? As our tech guy Scott says, don't forget to check your spam folder and make sure that news@oakcliffuu.org is in your contacts. And here's a special note from our administrative assistant Rita about an upcoming event.
Hey everybody! The planning team has begun work on this year's Haunted Forest. Eric, this isn't funny. The Haunted Forest is our biggest fundraiser of the year.
Oh, sorry.
We will need help passing out flyers, getting things out of the attic, setting up on the day of the event, tearing down after the event, and we will need trail guides, ghosts, and ghoulies to make our event scary fun. Yeah, that's the spirit. Get it? Spirit. Watch for volunteer opportunities in your e-blast, on channels, and right here on Sunday morning announcements.
But wait, there's one more thing. We have a member anniversary to celebrate. Renee Brill joined us on August 28th of 2011. That's it for now. I hope you all have a great week.
Good morning. I'm so glad to see all of you today. We'll start our service with our chalice lighting. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of love, compassion, and forgiveness. We have a hymn. We haven't sung it in a while. We don't have our keyboardist today, so we're going to just sing together.
A cappella. so thank you for your understanding. Please rise in body and/or spirit. These words of 1870, it's the preamble to the Constitution of the first ever U.S. Mine Workers Union. So they're very powerful. And we're going to repeat it 3 times, so we have 3 times to kind of get into it a little bit. So thank you so much today, y'all. I'm going to steal your mic real quick. Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, and by union what we will can and be accomplished still. Great. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Awesome. Step by step, the longest march can be won, Many stones can form an arch, singly none, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Last and loud. Step by step, the longest march can be won, To Besos, stony stones can form an arch, singly none. To the billionaires, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Thank you.
Our opening words today are from Jonathan Edwards. A man of right spirit is not a man of narrow and private views, but is greatly interested and concerned for the good of the community to which he belongs, and particularly the city and village of which he resides, and for the true welfare of the society of which he is a member.
Welcome. Welcome to the UU Church of Oak Cliff. Here we seek to build a community where what you believe is less important than how your beliefs guide and inform your participation in the world. Ours is a community that strives to value the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. To our returning visitors, we are so happy you have joined us again. We know your time is precious, and we're honored to have you here today. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to any who are joining us for the first time, and we sure have some. We recognize the bravery it takes to come into a new place, and we're glad you're here. Ours is a covenantal church, Latin for come together. Covenant means a solemn agreement or promise from the heart regarding a course of action between parties. The practice of promising to walk together is the core of our faith. Simply put, it is a guide for the behavior we expect from ourselves and each other. We are bound together by the promises we make to honor one another, and we recite our covenant during every worship service. Because we love one another, we honor each individual's spiritual journey. We celebrate life's abundance in service to each other, our community, and the world. We connect with each other in love, respect, and acceptance. Thus do we covenant together. Porque nos amamos uno al otro, honoramos el viaje espiritual de cada individuo. Celebramos la abundancia de la vida en el servicio a entre sí, nuestra comunidad y el mundo. Ponemos en contacto a unos con otros en el amor, respeto y aceptación. Así que hacemos pacto. In our community, we take time each week to share what is in our hearts and on our minds. If your heart is heavy today, we know that you don't have to carry that heartache alone. Together, we can offer comfort. Please share your sorrows publicly by posting them in the Zoom chat, or send them to our Facebook Messenger, or speak them aloud.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
We also share our joys with one another, knowing that joy calls unto joy, amplified. Together, our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. Please share your joys publicly by posting them to the Zoom chat, or send them to our Facebook Messenger, or speak them aloud.
This is not going to be a formal biographical introduction. Gene is a friend. I met him when he was teaching at Paul Bishop College, now Paul Quinn College, and publishing a little newspaper for low-income and unemployed people in the community. He subsequently changed to a job where he could work in a union. And he's been doing that even before and since his retirement. But I ask you to welcome this friend, Gene Lantz.
This is not going to be like last year. I think I spoke last year on Labor Day because the situation has gotten so serious that I don't have a happy message, at least not for the first part of this. My credentials. I've been knocking around the labor movement for over 50 years. I have a little bit of formal training. I have a doctorate in education. I'm the president of this and that. I'm the president of the retirees at my local. I'm the president of the Dallas Central Labor Council, and I'm the president of the Texas Alliance for Retired Americans. All the retired Americans in Texas, I am your president. And I'm also a radio talk show host. But those are just formal titles. I'm going to speak on this thesis, and I'm not asking that you agree with me. I'm only asking that you consider the idea that I may be right. And my thesis is that fascism has already begun in America and is well on its way to success. Fascism has already begun in America and is well on its way to success. If we were comparing the United States with Germany in the 30s, because when people think of fascism, they nearly always think of the Nazis. If we were comparing us today to where they were, I would say that we are past 1931, when Hitler won his first election, and not yet up to 1933, when Hitler won a second election and consolidated his rule and became the dictator of Germany. But somewhere in between those two. Here's my definition of fascism, just a short version. It is a form of class rule that capitalists choose when they are threatened, when they're threatened with losing their rule. And it's a lot easier to see elsewhere. Studying Germany is not the only way to study fascism. There are plenty of countries that have had fascism and ended it. Take, for example, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, and especially Indonesia. Those are countries that were going along with limited democracy, such as what we enjoy today. They changed over, became fascist countries for a certain period of time because the capitalist ruling class there got threatened. They began to feel that they were slipping, losing their hold. They instituted fascism instead. And then later, they terminated it. And they brought back limited democracy such as we have. By then, the people who had been threatening them were all either exiled, thrown in prison, or murdered. If you study Indonesia, 1 million people were murdered. If you study Chile, we don't really have a number, but it was a lot. Most of them students, Argentines. Remember, if you're old enough to remember when they were throwing those students out of helicopters? That's fascism as it was implemented by the ruling capitalist class at that time because they were threatened at that time. And then they terminated it later because fascism is not very efficient for running an economy. Economies work better if the workers believe in their government and think they have a good government and want to do good. It's very hard for a worker to not want to do good. Believe me, I've tried. And when you work in a factory, as I was doing for 23 years, I reached an occasion in which we were supposed to be running a slowdown. And I thought, well, what I really need to do is break something. And so I tried, and I just couldn't do it. As soon as I saw smoke, I turned the machine. Well, anyway, people do better when they believe in their government, and that's why capitalism works so well. It's so much better than serfdom was. But if you study fascism, you'd do better to study it in, for example, Spain or Chile. Now, fascism is not always introduced by the native ruling class. Sometimes it is introduced by some other dominant country, particularly this one. So in Chile, they didn't overthrow Salvador Allende by themselves. They had a lot of help from the CIA, and in Indonesia and in the other countries as well. Now, every time the United States overthrows another country, they don't necessarily institute fascism. In some of them they do, but not all of them. The only thing that is consistent is that they always institute a government that is friendly to American business interests, and particularly to the oil companies. Another good way to study what fascism is look what's going on today in France. Now, if you were like me a couple of months ago, you were celebrating because they held an election. All of the pundits and all of the predictions were that the fascists were going to win. But the progressives united in a coalition. There were the communists, there were the socialists, and there were the trade unionists, and I don't know who else because they have a lot of different political formations over in France. They united and won the election. They came in first. The fascists came in last. They came in third. In the middle was Mr. Macron and what they call the centrists. Those are the people that don't know what they want, in my opinion. So, according to their laws and customs, the progressives should have been able to try to form a government. And the assumption was, or my assumption was, that they would reach out to the centrists and try to form a government with the centrists. But that's not what happened. Instead, Mr. Macron, the representative, the political representative of the ruling class there, is reaching out to the fascists and is going to try to form a fascist government with them in France. It's going on today. It was a choice of the capitalist ruling class, and that's the point I'm trying to make. This is going on now, and I don't know how it's going to come out, but it's a lot better than trying to study Nazi Germany. We kind of overstudy them. They were pretty exceptional. So, I am asserting that fascism has already begun and is well on its way to success in America. And labor shares the blame. Labor shares the blame for Chile. The AFL-CIO was working with the government and helped them overthrow Chile. The AFL-CIO worked with the government. Well, they always did. Samuel Gompers started the AFL, and he always worked with the government on overthrowing progressive governments in other countries. They always did. It wasn't something new. I was told last night that by an author named, I've got it somewhere, Kitchich. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it. Kim Kitchich. He said that they're still doing it, but I don't know that for a fact. But I asserted that fascism is already established in America and has made considerable gains towards success. We might look at its origins in the John Birch Society. Because if you're old enough to remember the 1960s, there was some great progress made by the people's movement, especially in civil rights, especially in the women's movement, especially the gay rights movement. We made a lot of gains. And when the anti-war movement shook the very foundations of America, the student movement, a family named Koch, oil men, started the John Birch Society. And at that time, it was considered kind of an oddity, not an important part of the political spectrum in America. But those same guys have now taken over the Republican Party. So one of the two main capitalist parties in America has gone fascist. That's what I mean by making progress. They have also made progress in local governments, especially in school boards. Apparently, it's pretty easy to take over a school board. I think it's because the trustees don't get paid. But they've taken over school boards. There's a school district in the valley, I didn't write down the name of it, where they are calling for 600-something book titles to be removed from their libraries. Book banning. They have taken over a number of state governments. Is it 19 or is it more than that now? Starting particularly in Texas, where they have been able to suppress voting, especially through redistricting, through purging voter rolls, voter ID, and other forms of making it harder to fill out this or that form, and a lot of terrible bad publicity against the idea of voting. This is going on now. The governor of Texas made a big hoopla about the purging of the voter rolls. He said, we have removed 1 million voters. Well, most of them were deceased. It was just a routine effort to clean up the voting rolls. They do it all the time. But he made a big scene about it, did a big press conference about it because he wants to intimidate the voters. The Attorney General of Texas has been having troopers kick down the doors of election activists, especially in the Latino X community, and getting as much publicity as he can with it. And why? It's not because he thinks he's going to find voter fraud. They have never been able to find any voter fraud. It's because they're trying to intimidate the voters, trying to stop voting, trying to end democracy as much as they can. And he's also trying again to prosecute Crystal Mason. Crystal Mason went to prison already because she slipped up and voted, thinking that since she had gotten out of jail that she was a citizen again and that she could vote, which is true in many states. But in this state, you can't vote until you've completely finished your paper. You got to get off your parole terms before you can vote. She didn't know that. They put her in prison for it and got as much publicity with it as they possibly could because their real goal is to end democracy. At the federal level, I told you this was going to be dark. This is not a happy report. But if you're going to talk about Labor Day, if you're going to talk about what Labor's been doing and what Labor needs to do and what we need to do, you have to first assess the situation that you are in. And that's what I'm trying to do. Now, at the federal level, these fascists have taken over the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court. They have already gutted the voter rights law. They've already made corporations people and money into votes. That was done some time ago, but just in the last couple of months, they made the President of the United States a virtual monarch, going back to a monarchy. And I think this is even worse, but we haven't seen all the effects of it yet. They crippled the entire government. All of the regulatory agencies that make up our government have been crippled by the Supreme Court. In the past, there was an assumption that organizations like the Environmental Protection Agency and the National Labor Relations Board, that they knew what they were doing, that they were the experts, and that if they made a ruling, it was assumed that they were right. You could get a ruling overturned, but the assumption was that they were right. The Supreme Court has thrown that into the toilet. And now, any corporate lawyer that wants to challenge anything that any of the regulatory agencies has done may very well do so. This happened in a ruling concerning some Starbucks workers that had been fired unjustly. And they won in the lower court. They were reinstated. And then the corporation got a lawyer, shopped around for the right judge, and not only did they get the people fired again, but they actually crippled all of the regulatory agencies. Think about that. All of the regulatory agencies. What do they regulate? They regulate the bosses. They stop companies from just polluting all they want to, which is what they would do, isn't it? It's just natural for them. That's how they make more money. So these regulatory agencies no longer enjoy the benefit of the doubt, and we are going to see some terrible results from it. About a couple of months ago, the Federal Trade Commission made a ruling. Very good ruling. All of us in labor were celebrating. We thought it was wonderful. One of the many wonderful things that has happened under the Biden administration. Labor loves Biden. Labor's crazy about Biden. Labor says that Biden's the best president we ever had, better than Franklin Roosevelt. And that ruling said that non-compete agreements were illegal. Non-compete agreements affect 30 million workers, but I think they particularly affect technical workers. When a person gets a job, the company forces them to sign a non-compete agreement which says that when you leave this job with this company, no matter how you leave it, whether we fire you or you just get laid off or whatever, that you will not take another job with any of our competitors. So if you're trained in a certain field and you sign this non-competitive agreement and you lose that job for some reason, you're out of luck. You may as well look in some other field, because that ruling will keep you as more or less as an indentured servant at that company. So the Federal Trade Commission, to everybody's delight, ruled that that was illegal. Along came the Supreme Court ruling that said Federal Trade Commission can't do that. So now non-compete agreements have been reinstated. So those 30 million workers are stuck as indentured servants again. Fascism is in America and has already made great gains. Polls say, I know that a lot of us are very happy since Kamala started running. And it is true that she seems to be gaining in the polls, but not so much in the swing states. And don't forget, the swing states, the reason people watch the swing states is because of the Electoral College. Trump never won a popular vote. He only got 46% back when he was elected president. But he won in the Electoral College, and he's still ahead in the Electoral College. So there's at least an even chance that the Fascist Party will win on November 5th. And just if you were thinking that the Fourth Estate was going to save us, in other words, the integrity of our newspersons, the bulwark of democracy, like the Dallas Morning News, that they were going to save us, you can forget that. The mainstream media is basically a house pet for the bosses today. I don't remember if it's 5 or 6 corporations control more than half of everything you see, hear, or read. That's the books, that's the radio stations, that's the television. So you're not going to be able to count on the Fourth Estate to help you. I said I was going to sing, so I'm going to pause for a musical interlude, but I'm not going to sing anything happy. They used to tell me I was building a dream, so I just followed the mob. When there was earth to plow or arms to bear, I was there. I was always on the job. They used to tell me I was building the dream, so I just followed wherever they led. It was fine, but now I'm standing in line, standing and waiting for bread. Once I built a railroad, I made it run. I made it run against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once I built a tower up to the sun, bricks and low mortar and lime. Once I built a tower, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, ah gee, we look swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell. I was the kid with the drum. Oh, say, don't you remember? They called me Al. It was Al all the time. Say, don't you remember? I was your pal. Brother, can you spare a dime? Brother, can you spare a dime? It's, when you're as old as I am and you still do stuff like this, it's kind of incredible. I'll be 84 this month. Fascism is not inevitable. I didn't say it was inevitable. I just said it was here. It is not inevitable. There are some good reasons why we may not get fascism or why it may not happen anytime soon. And one of the main reasons is that everybody in the ruling class has not chosen fascism. The ruling class has not gone over to fascism as they did in Germany after the 1931 election. You can tell that because a lot of them are still giving to the Democrats. And the Democrats are standing up for democracy in this election, at least at home. Certainly not in Palestine, but at least here in the United States, they are standing up for democracy. So that's a very good sign. There was an article in the Washington Post just this past week in which they claimed that they figured out who were the top 50 donors in the United States. Now, 5 of them you can just forget because they said they were going to give to both parties or that they were going to give to a third party. But among the other 45 that were giving to the Democrats or the Republicans, 30 of the top 50 donors were giving to the Republicans. 15 were giving to the Democrats. I'm not claiming that that's a statistically proof of something, but I think it's a good indication that there's still a segment, maybe 1/3 or so, of the rich people of this country that are not advocating for fascism. They're the ones that are donating to the Democratic Party in the current election. Another reason that we could have some hope is because the people of the United States believe that they live in a democracy. They believe that they live under the best possible government. And it's very hard to shake that belief. So that's a good plus for us. The best plus, though, is that the working class is catching on. The working class is really starting to do well. They just had the Democratic Party convention. 20% of the delegates were from labor. You know, we only have 10% of the workforce organized out of the whole population. But at the Democratic Party, 20% of the people were from labor, and they had a whole night more or less devoted to labor. Did people get to see the scene where Sean Fain from my union, the Auto Workers Union, got up there and took his jacket off? And he had a Trump is a scab on there. And people loved it. People love Sean Fain. He's one of the most popular men in America. He's the president of my union. I'm so proud. I can't tell you. Also want to point out that this past week, the Gallup poll came out. Gallup is the most respected pollster. I know that pollsters have taken some lumps lately. But the Gallup poll came out and said that 70% of the people in America approve of labor unions. That is wonderful. Compare that to the president. He can't get 40%. Compare it to Congress. They can't get 20%. They love us. Labor is popular. And there's another reason that's sitting right here in this room. There's another reason to be very hopeful that the working class is going to be able to stop fascism. Here's how I got a quote here from AFL-CIO Secretary-Treasurer Fred Redmond. He said this just 3-4 days ago. Quote, "The labor movement is the most powerful force for progress. The future of this country hinges on the success of the labor movement. We do not get involved in politics just to win elections. We make calls, knock on doors, and talk to our members so we can build worker power and win economic progress and social justice." What's sitting right here in this room? David Lowry. Hold your hand up. David's not in a union as far as I know. But he's the co-chair of the Young Active Labor Leaders. And if you've been reading about all of the solidarity stuff that happened in the SAG-AFTRA strike, which we won, in the UAW strike, which we won, in the flight attendants at Love Field, which we won, you can thank David Lauer. And you can also thank him for the Dallas Fired Black Dancers, which is present project, which we are going to win that one too, aren't we, David? And those two women sitting beside him are also members of the Young Active Labor Leaders. Now, they are going to do something even more incredible than that. They are starting Pride at Work. That's the LGBTQ plus part of the labor movement. We've never had it in Dallas, but they are starting it, and that means a whole nother big section. Tomorrow at the Labor Day breakfast, the Stonewall Democrats will have a table, and so we are building not only more union members. 2023, 2024 were very good years for organizing, but that hasn't affected the density reports from the Bureau of Labor Statistics yet. But What we have built is a periphery of people who may or may not be union members that are suddenly getting very active. And don't let me overlook Mavis Belisle. And the most active member of the Texas Alliance for Retired Americans in the whole state, Charlotte Connolly. Always there. You see the news coverage on anything that we do in the Alliance for Retired Americans, you'll see Charlotte if you look closely. I have never been able to convince her to take on leadership, but this is big news. It's different. It's never happened as far as I know. Maybe in the 30s. I don't think so. But the periphery around labor, the people that are helping labor to win, to take on the big fights and to stop fascism and to go on to a better world, they're there. It's growing. It's getting better all the time. So that's the best of all news. Let me just go back over what I said. Fascism is on the premises and has a strong chance of succeeding. Only the working class can stop them. Therefore, I'm not just suggesting that you might work with labor. I am insisting on it. If you want to stop fascism in America, find a place like Mavis says. I don't know, have you ever been in a union? Never been in a union. But she's right there with the Alliance for Retired Americans on the picket line, on the solidarity efforts, at the rallies, donating the money, signing the petitions, and winning. So, I encourage you, I insist actually, that you try to do this. And you can start by coming to the Labor Day breakfast tomorrow. And just to get you to come to the Longhorn Ballroom at 8:30 tomorrow and join under one roof the strongest and most hopeful organization that exists in this part of the world. Now I want to close with a little bit happier song. I wrote this. Above all the yin and yammer, I'd like to add my voice, although I may stammer. Camelot, beautiful Camelot, you have given our hopes and dreams a great big jump. You're meant to be Madam President, and you'll save us from that awful liar Trump.
In the spring of 2021, we added at this church a second covenant to our weekly worship service. If you would follow along. We, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff, commit ourselves to the studying and dismantling of racism and oppression within our congregation. We commit our congregation and ourselves to the work of anti-racism and anti-oppression. We commit ourselves to listening, to learning, and to action. When we fail, we commit ourselves to trying again and again. We covenant to begin this work and to continue until all of us can truly say that we are a beloved community of justice, equity, and compassion. The gifts you make to our weekly offering or through your annual pledge represent far more than lines on a spreadsheet. Your contributions are a tangible commitment to the mission and vision of this congregation. The offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. Members, if you are contributing cash toward your pledge, please use an envelope from the basket and write your name on it. You can also donate by text or through our website. See your order of service for details.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Te Dio recibo, a ti te doy. Así compartimos y vivimos hoy. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Te Dio recibo, a ti te doy. Así compartimos y vivimos hoy.
In the words of social progressive journalist and commentator Jim Hightower, what created democracy was Thomas Paine and Shays' rebellion, the suffragists and the abolitionists, and on through the populists and the labor movement, including the Wobblies. Tough, in-your-face people. Mother Jones, Woody Guthrie, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez. And now it's down to us.
We leave this gathered community, but we do not leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other. Our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Be strong, be well, be true, be loving. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Extinguimos salama para no la luz de la verdad, el calor de la comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez.